Hey, wonderfuls. It was sad to hear last night Mel talk about the protection that she didn't have in her marriage as she reflects and sees that she was never really protected. She's telling Nell Fletcher that she is just now realizing that she was not protected as a wife is supposed to be protected by her husband. And she says this was prior to leaving the marriage. Yes. And sad to say, but y'all, I had actually witnessed that myself during those early years of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Oh, yeah, I witnessed that. Martell would talk to Melody in ways that I saw as very disrespectful, in my opinion. And it also showed in his behavior. And when you see something like that, that's common sense. It says, how is someone talking to his wife like that a protector? And here we are all these many years later with Mel confirming what I had observed in Martell's speech and his behavior toward Melody. Martell would just prance himself around, actually, in my opinion, doing nothing. And I see Mel doing all the work, all the time. Pretty much the way it is now in present time, you all. Martell is still prancing around in a sort of smoke and mirrors trick, a smoke and mirrors shuffle and jiving and doing nothing, while Mel is making big moves as she's always done. So, I had witnessed that all those many years ago. I'm like, what is this man doing? What is he saying? Why is he talking to Melody like that? And so she's telling Nell Fletcher this as she reflects. She didn't have that even prior to her leaving the marriage. So, you all, on a good note, I was happy to hear in that conversation with the Fletcher lady, Mel talk about the protection that she feels now. Yes, Nell Fletcher's trying to get all up in her business. And the one thing that she would tell her, and which I'm glad she didn't tell her anything else, because right now it is nobody's business. Mel said, I right now feel protected. Yes. And she said that she was going to keep that aspect of her life private, you know, concerning the who, the what, the where, the when. That's nobody's business. And I'm glad she made that decision. Keep that private. And she said that the only time we know is when she's married. And I said, that's the way it should be. Because, I say awesome because God's got mail, as he's always had her. God himself protected Mel. God himself provided for Mel, as he always has, despite Martell, who in my opinion never really did. In my opinion, I didn't ever really see that in those prior years. And it is so interesting to note that while we are all taking a look at how that was during that time, we can all still see clearly through our eyes of God's protection of Mel all those years, despite her husband, who was supposed to protect her, did not. And we can see God's hand of protection for her. And I was just so happy to reflect with Mel on that, and to know that despite it all, she too realized that it was only God who protected her, and only God who provided for her. We can clearly see that. And you all, on another wonderful note, Mel did it. Yes. Yes, her celebration of her name change. It is done. Oh, yes. She came on live to tell how happy she was about the whole thing. And y'all, we felt that happiness right along with her. Oh my goodness. The new beginnings. And as she spoke about, there is something in a name, y'all. There is something in a name, and she just feels so good to know that she's clearly made all the moves to get herself to a point of knowing who she really is and what her name, her own name, has meant all these years. And she was always that Rogers. Yes, she was. Because in spite of having that other name be put, I'll say, alongside Rogers, it did nothing, because she was always a Rogers. She always made that name for herself, to look at her progress and to see, as I spoke about earlier, how she'd always be doing the good work in that marriage, and that she was always the one thriving. So, she had that name. She was working, in my opinion, from the base, from the foundation of her name, Rogers. Rodgers. Yes, she was always working from the true grit and inner gut of who she always was. And the counterfeit came along, And I'll say put his name right beside hers because she's always had that name, Rogers, as a foundation. Think about it. She never really left that name because she brought into that marriage who she is. Because as you can see, she continued to thrive in that same vein of who Rogers really is. Despite all that Martell was doing against her, really being an enemy to her, as she said to herself, sleeping with the enemy. She said that last night when she was talking to Neil Fletcher. Yes, she did. Despite all of that, she still functioned and operated in the thrive of who she is as a Rogers, y'all. Now, you all get that. And I'm just happy to close this out on that good note to say that yes, we saw even then, no, she wasn't really protected. But what we see now is that God was always there protecting her. And she had always operated from the foundation of who she is as Melody Shari Rogers. So that's it for now, wonderfuls. Congratulations, Miss Rogers. Talk to you later, wonderfuls.